All right, so we have finally figured out where we're gonna put our VegoGarden bed that we built in a video a few weeks ago. And you can see it's right here. It's kind of to the side of our main raised bed garden. And I think it's gonna be a really nice spot because it lines up really nicely with like everything else in our garden right now. And it's also really close to our water source. Which is important because every other place we were thinking of was really far and we couldn't even reach it with a hose. So I would have to set up like drip irrigation or something like that. And I didn't really want to do that. So I think this is going to be a great spot. And especially after the really dry year that we've had where we went many months without rain, I definitely think that it's important to be near our water. So I think this is going to be a good spot. And now we just have to fill it up, which as I mentioned in the video when we were building it, this is a pretty large bed. It's 2.5 feet by I think 9.5 feet and it's 17 inches tall. So that would be a lot of soil if we were just trying to fill it with bagged potting soil. So what we're going to do is fill the bottom third of the bed with some branches. So we have some like prunings here from dead trees and shrubs, and we're gonna chop these up a little smaller. I don't think they have to be like super fine. They are gonna break down over time, but we're just gonna chop them up into smaller pieces at least, and that will help them to break down. Then for the next third part of the bed, I think what we're gonna do is try and fill as much as possible with maybe some of our animal bedding. So here I have 2 buckets of chicken bedding that I scooped out of the chicken coop. And you can see it's a mix of manure and pine wood shavings. So I think that's going to be a really nice mix that will break down and it will have a lot of nutrients in it. And I want that to be the middle to bottom layer because this bedding is a little bit on the fresher side. It's not like an aged manure, so I don't want it to be too close to the top. We can't really plant directly in it because it could have harmful bacteria in there and also it could burn any fresh plants. But I think if it's like towards the bottom, it'll be nice. It'll break down over time and have a lot of nutrients in it. So we're gonna see how far we can get with just like these 2 kinds of materials. I think we're also probably gonna clean out the goat shelter as well, and their bedding is straw with the manure. So I think that will take up a good amount of volume, and we'll see how far we can get filling the bed with those kinds of materials. We'll probably get more branches than what's here. And then for at least the top like 3rd layer, then we will add like bagged potting mix because then that will be like ready to plant in. We'll get a good like at least 8 inches on top. That will be just potting soil that will be ready to plant in. It already looks so good though. Like nice and fine for the most part. It's been probably about a week since I started this video and we started filling up our VegoGarden bed behind me. This process has taken a little longer than I thought it would. I really meant to fill up this bed at the beginning of this month when we first built it all, but the whole first week of September we had this like crazy heat wave where it was like 95 degrees for a solid week, and we just didn't want to be doing like hard work and hauling soil when it was that hot out. And I did really want to get some stuff in earlier, but we waited for that weather to pass. Now we're at like the middle to end of September. We've got this whole bed filled up. So we started off with a layer of logs and branches. Then we did a bunch of animal bedding in the middle. And then the top layer is like container potting soil and also compost. We ended up using, I think, almost 5 full bags of potting soil, like the largest size we could find. And then we also had 2 smaller bags of compost. So it took quite a few bags of soil, even though we filled up a lot of the middle and bottom layers with other materials. And actually our bed is still not even filled up to the top. I think we could definitely use a couple more bags of soil if we wanted it to be filled up all the way to the top. But that's okay because it's always nice to have a few inches of extra space in case we want to mulch with anything like wood chips or straw. And at this point, I just want to get the seeds into the ground rather than wait for us to go out and get more potting soil, because we're at the point of the season where every week counts and I really need to get these seeds into the ground. So we're just going to plant into the bed as it is, and I know that the soil is going to settle a lot as all of the bottom layers break down and all of the soil settles in, but I'm completely aware of this and I'm fine with that as well, because the things that I'm planting right now, they're pretty much just going to be here for the fall, and then we always top off our beds with fresh compost in the spring. So we'll be sure to do like a nice thick layer of compost, or maybe we'll add more potting soil in the spring to top off the bed. It's definitely going to settle over the winter, so we'll just see where the level is at in the spring. So I think now's a nice time to just get like a nice short crop in, and then we'll just reassess in the spring and see how much soil we need to top off with. So today is going to be the very last batch of seed sowing for 2023, which is crazy. I can't believe the season is coming to an end. We can pretty much grow into November, maybe even December around here, but this is the last batch of seeds that I'll still have time to sow and get something, because even though things will survive in the winter, they need at least a month of growing before the first frost comes for them to really do well. So today is September 25th. I think we have just about a month before our first frost date. I think our first frost date is October 22nd. So that should be a pretty good amount of time to get some stuff in, and everything that I'm planting today is also frost hardy, so they will survive past our first frost date, and they'll grow just a little bit once it starts to get cooler. So yeah, let me go over all of the things that I'm planting today for our last seed sowing of the year in late September. Basically everything is root vegetables and leafy greens. So first let me go over the root vegetables. I want to try to get another crop of daikon radishes in. I already have some of these growing in the garden and they're actually doing really well. But I want to see if I can get another crop of these in. These do take a little bit on the longer side for a radish at least to grow. I think probably 50 to 60 days is good for this type of radish. So we're a little short on time, but if I just have to pick them a little bit young, that's okay. We'll see how far into the winter they last as well. And also you can just pick them smaller, or you can use the tops of the radish and just have some like stir-fried radish greens the same way you would cook turnip greens. So I'm going to try to get another crop of those in, because the patch of daikon radishes I have right now, they're looking really good, but it's kind of like a smaller patch. And I just remembered that I really wanted to make some homegrown, homemade Chinese radish cake this year, which takes a lot of daikon radish. So if I could get a nice bigger crop of those, that would be great. Then I have some smaller radishes that do not take as long. They definitely will only need like a month to grow, and it's these 2 varieties which are my 2 favorite types of radishes. I have the Giant of Sicily and the White Hailstone radish. So I think I'm going to do a lot of these because these are probably the thing that I'm most confident I'll have plenty of time for them to grow really well. And then lastly, I'm going to be planting some cylindra beets. I have really enjoyed these beets in the spring. They form a really long beet, so I feel like you get a lot of beet per plant, and they did really well for us. I have some of these out in the garden, but I planted them from transplants, and my transplants were looking pretty sad because they were sitting outside for that entire week of the heat wave, so they were kind of like fried a little bit, so I'm going to try and direct sow some of these just in case my transplants don't do that well. So those are all the root vegetables. Now I have some leafy greens that I'm going to plant. So I have a couple more things that, again, I put some transplant out in the garden from seeds that I started probably in July, but they're looking pretty sad. So I'm going to try and direct sow these and see if that does better. A lot of these greens probably need between 40 to 60 days, but they are frost hardy, so we'll see what we get from them. So first off, I have just some plain old bok choy. Honestly, I think bok choy is my favorite vegetable, like, of all time. If I only had one vegetable that I could eat every single week, it would be bok choy. And yeah, I just can never have enough of it. So I'm gonna see if I can get a crop of these out. It does say 45 to 50 days. I think we'll be good with that because you can also pick bok choy really small too and just have baby bok choy. So that should be great. Next I have some tot soy. Tot soy has a similar flavor to bok choy. I think it's a little bit sweeter, especially as it goes into the winter, and tot soy is more cold hardy than bok choy is. I have found that this can get us pretty much into December, which is amazing. It really does not like the heat, so if we do have a heat wave later into the fall, this might bolt. So I think later is actually better for this. And yeah, I think it's such a beautiful plant as well. Next, I have some lettuce. I have a few varieties of lettuce in my stash, but I just pulled out one of these packets. This is the Henderson's Black Seeded Simpson, just because we also direct sowed lettuce somewhere else in the garden already. So I think we should have a good amount, but I'm just going to do another bonus little row of this lettuce. Then lastly, I have spinach, and I have two varieties here, but one of my varieties, which is this Giant of Winter spinach, I had really bad germination with this packet. I don't know that I've gotten any of these seeds to grow, and I already contacted Baker Creek and they did give me a refund for these seeds because I couldn't get any of them to germinate. I've tried multiple times. I tried last fall and also this spring, nothing came up. So if you ever do have a problem with Baker Creek, I like that they have a money back guarantee. Just send them a message and they'll give you your money back if the seeds don't germinate. But yeah, I still have some seeds in here, and even though I kind of have a feeling they're not going to germinate, I'm just going to throw all of the seeds in the bed, because I might as well just get rid of the packet in my stash, and if 5 or 10 of the seeds grow, it's better than nothing. And I was really hoping for those spinach seeds to be a good one for the fall. Since it is called Giant of Winter, it's a little bit more cold hardy, but since I know that there's a chance those seeds might not germinate, I also brought out another variety of spinach that I have in my stash, which is the Bloomsdale Long-Standing Spinach. And this one is actually, I think, a more heat tolerant variety of spinach versus the other one is more cold tolerant. So this one maybe is better to plant in the spring, but I'm just going to plant it in the fall. It should do fine as long as the temperatures stay a little bit cooler. So those are all the seeds that I'm going to be planting today in our new VegoGarden bed. I'm so excited to get this all planted up. And I feel like once we had it all filled, for some reason it looks even bigger now. And I'm just so excited for how much we're going to be able to grow in this. I think I'm going to start sowing some seeds, see how much space I think they're going to take up. I might save part of the bed to plant our garlic in the fall. I think it would be a really nice space for it because since the soil is really nice and fresh and we have a lot of manure on the bottom layers, and also we added some fresh compost and fresh soil, it's going to have a lot of nutrients in it, which will be great for garlic because garlic is a really heavy feeder. But I kind of have to think about it as I'm planting because, like I said, the soil is going to settle and the garlic is going to stay until next summer. So I'm not sure if I really want to put it in a place where the soil is going to settle a lot. But I don't know. We can always top off with mulch or compost as well. So yeah, I'm gonna think about that as I plant. We'll just see how much space I can reasonably fill with all of these seeds, and if we have a lot of extra space, maybe I'll save that for garlic later on. Alright, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this stick at the halfway point, and just so I remember how far I'm sowing my seeds. And I think I'm going to sow a lot of the things I showed you in this half of the bed. We'll see how much space it takes up. If I need more space, then I'll move to the other half of the bed, but if not, maybe that will be for my garlic in the fall. And I think I'm just going to start off by making a bunch of lines in here, just these little furrows, which is super easy to do because the soil is so fresh and fluffy. It's always so nice working in a fresh bed where the soil has not clumped up or anything yet. So I'm gonna do these pretty close together because all of the things I'm planting today They don't really need a lot of space, especially like those small radishes. So this is probably like 4 inches apart, each of these rows. And then we have a good like 4.5 feet. So I have 5 rows here. So I can just decide what I'm gonna plant in each of these rows. Let's see. What I'm gonna do is try and organize them where I have like a smaller thing next to a slightly larger thing. By smaller thing, I mean something that's gonna be pulled out pretty quickly, like my smaller radishes. Because if I plant the smaller thing, that's going to be harvested first in one row, and then something larger that's going to be there longer in the next row. When I'm harvesting the earlier thing, the larger one's going to have more space to take up once the radishes have been harvested, if that makes sense. Okay, I think I have everything all set up here. I wonder if this will be enough space. I'm having a really hard time deciding if I should just go ahead and plant the whole bed with these seeds instead of saving space for garlic. I'm just looking around the garden now and seeing what beds will be available for garlic if I don't use this bed for it.
7 days later.
Okay, forget what I said. We're planting up this whole bed today. I'm just gonna go for it. We're gonna figure out what to do about the garlic later on. I think I have beds that we can clean out in the fall for the garlic, so I'm just gonna worry about that later. I kind of really do want to fill up this whole bed with all of like similar things because I just think it'll look really fun, and I think it'll be really nice to have like long rows of things. So we're doing it. Oh, and the nice thing about all of the things that I'm planting today are that their roots are not going to go like super deep. So I think they're pretty much just going to live in this like upper layer of potting soil, which is good because the manure I put a little lower down is not like the most aged manure. So I can't be sure that it's not going to like burn the plants. Shallow rooted things, I think it'll be okay. Okay, I've rearranged. We're gonna have a full row of bok choy. The next row is gonna be my 2 small radishes. The middle is gonna be tot soy. Then we're gonna have half lettuce, half beets. And then the last row is gonna be half daikon and half spinach. I'm planting these ones super thick just because of the germination issue. And we're just going to keep it in this corner here and see if anything comes up at all. Alright, so the whole bed is planted. I've watered everything in, and most of these seeds should only take a few days to start germinating, so hopefully we'll see some action soon. And yeah, it's just a bittersweet moment. I'm very happy to have these last seeds in and hopefully to get one last crop before the season's over, but it's always sad when you know that fall is coming and the garden is going to be done soon. But if you do still have about a month left, at least before your first frost date, make sure you get those last seeds in, especially those really quick root vegetables, radishes, and some lettuce or leafy greens like what I showed you today. Make sure you get them in soon so that you don't regret it once it's a little bit too late. And I'm really excited for this new addition to our garden and to see how this VegoGarden bed does for us. And of course, I'll be showing you as everything grows and hopefully when we harvest it as well. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again in the next one.